Kathy. I would like to call Independent School District 721 to order. All rise. Oh, sorry. Janelle, please note that Matt is not here today, but everyone else is present. So all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a special presentation with, oh, there you are. I'm like, where did she go? Principal Nicole Adams from the high school, recognizing high school senior Sullivan Hart for a National Merit Scholarship.
I think I'll have them come up. Thank you, members of the board, and thank you for the members of the public who are here. I'd like to introduce to you Sullivan Hart, sitting to my left. He is a member of the class of 2022, and he is receiving a letter of commendation from the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, which I'm going to share a little bit about here today. Last fall, Sullivan took the pre-SAT, which is what qualifies students to participate in the National Merit Scholarship Program. About 34,000 commended students throughout the nation are being recognized for their exceptional academic promise. Although they will not continue in the 2022 competition for the National Merit Scholarship Award, commended students do place among the top 50,000 students who entered the competition by taking the preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. Those that are named as commended students have demonstrated potential for academic success. These students represent a valuable national resource, and recognizing their accomplishments as well as the key role that their families and school play in their academic development is vital to the advancement of educational excellence in our nation. We hope that this recognition will help broaden Sullivan's educational opportunities, encourage him as he continues his pursuit of academic success. And I asked his teachers for a few comments regarding Sullivan, and they stated that Sullivan is exceptionally hardworking. He has a unique perspective, is open-minded in the way he approaches learning, and that he is going to be remembered at New Prague High School long after he leaves. And it is my great honor to present this letter of commendation to Sullivan Hart. That's it. You're good.
Go ahead.
No, you can
Okay. So, congratulations on a Sullivan, congratulations on a job well done.
go.
You're very welcome. All right, so open forum. Again, thank you all for attending the board meeting. We know that coming and taking time out of your schedule is important, and being here is important for us to listen to you. And just want to make a couple points again, that this is the meeting is open to the public, not a public meeting. This time is for the public to speak during the open forum, so just want to remind you that open forum cards must be completed prior to the meeting. The goal is to provide an orderly and efficient and fair opportunity for those presenting to be heard. Be advised that your time will be limited to 5 minutes, and tonight Mark is going to be my stopkeeper, so when you get to the minute, he'll give you a little 1-minute warning, so you know. Again, personal attacks by anyone addressing the board is unacceptable. persistence of such remarks by an individual will terminate that address and ask you to please return to your seat. And members of the audience, again, just asking you to be respectful and just refrain from outbursts and all that, okay? We all know the rules. So, Todd Stika is our first speaker. Todd, am I reading this correctly? Biggs in school?
Bias.
Bias in school. I am so sorry.
No problem. Sorry, I'm gonna have to be quick to fit this all in. So, hi, my name is Todd Stika, and I grew up in New Prague and have lived here almost my entire life. I have 3 kids currently in the school system, and I want to share today some of my children's experience with left-wing bias in our New Prague schools. In 2011, my oldest daughter was in 2nd grade at Falcon Ridge, and our family went to a pizza party they often had. I noticed my daughter's assignment on the wall that was titled, "If I Were President." Her assignment read this: if I were President of the United States, I would make a law not to litter. I would give more money to the poor. I would make sure animals don't get hurt. I would let people in Iraq come home right after the war. Then came the last line of her paper. It read, "I would also raise taxes." I was shocked and bewildered by this, as I knew my daughter had no idea what a tax was or where it comes from. She was 8. On the car ride home after the pizza party, I asked my daughter, "Sweetie, what's a tax? I noticed on your paper you said you would raise taxes. What's a tax?" She had no idea how to answer. I asked her, "Where does tax money come from?" Once again, no idea. I pressed on, "So why would you raise taxes, honey?" I finally got her to crack, and she replied, "Isn't a tax something that helps people like my teacher's husband who doesn't have a job right now?" Yeah, I was mortified. A New Prague 2nd grade teacher tugging on the heartstrings of my 8-year-old daughter for political gain. To start this indoctrination in 2nd grade is shameful. I went into this teacher's classroom the following day to have a discussion about this. The teacher denied everything. Of course I knew she was lying. The teacher's now retired, and I feel good about that. But how many kids did she inappropriately impact with her left-wing bias? I soon realized that little old New Prague is just like every other school in America, a school with many great teachers, but also many left-leaning biased teachers with an agenda. I started telling my children to record many of these biases while in the classroom. Over the years, I got plenty of gems. Here are a few more. In 2018, in a 10th grade science class, a video was played, and the presenter's name was Catherine Hayhoe, a client scientist from Texas Tech University. In the video, Catherine at one point claimed, "A thermometer tells us that the planet is warming, and that same thermometer knows that humans are responsible for that warming." Here it is.
Answer depending on if we're liberal or conservative? Of course not. But if that thermometer tells us that the planet is warming, that humans are responsible, and that to fix this thing we have to wean ourselves off fossil fuels as soon as possible.
Yep, a nationally accredited climate scientist claiming a thermometer knows the reason the climate is changing is because of humans. And our school played this video. Catherine continued for 16 minutes and 33 seconds, spewing out tons of liberal global warming talking points along with her anti-petroleum agenda. After the video, the class was forced to take part in an exercise to figure out their carbon footprint. This is my child's 12th grade current economics book. It is written by Paul Krugman, a fringe leftist who works for the New York Times. He once quoted, quote, "These days, however, the main problem comes from the right, from conservatives who, unlike most economists, really do think that the free market is always right." Here's another one of his quotes. Quote, "I believe in a relatively equal society supported by institutions that limit extremes of wealth and poverty. I believe in democracy, civil liberties, and the rule of law. That makes me a liberal, and I'm proud of it," unquote. His left-wing ideologies are riddled throughout this book. On page 299, it talks about whether federal budgets should be balanced annually, and he wrote that, quote, "Most economists don't think so," unquote. Well, Mr. Krugman, maybe that's the reason we're almost $29 trillion in debt, because people like you are teaching our youth. Everyone in New Prague should object to this book being used in our curriculum, and we should all write a letter to the superintendent requesting its removal for a book that's apolitical. In 2017, in 9th grade civics class, there was a discussion about government shutdowns, and my child's teacher mentioned to the class that the government shutdowns are always caused when the Republican Party was in charge. I wasn't sure of this, so we researched. 5 minutes later, we found out that of the 18 government shutdowns through 2017, 13 of them had split presidential House Senate parties in the majority. 5 of the shutdowns, however, had shutdowns when one party had the House, the Senate, and the presidency. All 5 of these happened in 77 and 78 when Democrat Jimmy Carter was our president, along with the Democratic House and Democratic Senate. I challenged my child to bring her research to class the following day and tell the class the facts we found. She wouldn't, as she was afraid it could affect her grades negatively. I believe there are a lot of kids in this district and across the USA that feel the same way. On September 29, 2020, in 11th grade geography class, another biased teacher started class with how Donald Trump doesn't pay any or little taxes. A geography teacher. I don't realize a geography teacher was best fit to analyze a presidential tax return they had not reviewed or seen themselves. As a parent, we need our children's phones to be recording during these biased classes, and we need to be posting these videos online until all the indoctrination and bias stops. It's up to us to make this difference. I expect all teachers and curriculum to be apolitical. I would never want to push my political views on anyone else's kids, and I demand New Prague teachers to stop pushing their political opinions onto my kids. I propose the school board brings up a motion to have cameras installed in all social science and maybe geography classes that can be viewed remotely by the taxpayers. Thank you.
And our next speaker will be Daniel King, regarding meeting tone.
Good evening, everyone. Wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in the country. Again, focusing on Loudoun County, Virginia. Continues to be the focal point for the discussions around school board meetings and parental interaction with the school system. Unfortunately, things have gotten quite negative to the point where branches of the federal government are investigating the parents for participating in simple school board meetings. Ask me, we're living in crazy times. I think it's important that we don't lose sight that the right to petition our government is fundamental to our form of government dating back to the 1100 Charter of Liberties, one of the founding documents of our Constitution. To date, the discussions here have been passionate and heartfelt, as you just witnessed, as we, the parents, want to be involved in decisions affecting our children. The conversation started around CRT back in April, but is not limited to that one subject, as parents have been awakened to what is being taught in schools across the country, and there are great legitimate concerns over the indoctrination that is occurring in the schools. We have no hidden agendas here. We have no hidden agendas meant to distract the school board, as was suggested in the last open forum meeting. To suggest so is insulting to the parents. In fact, we have been very direct with our concerns. Our agenda is the well-being of our children, period. Our conversations are not meant as personal attacks toward teachers, but it is a question of the system as a whole. We want to make sure the conversations continue and that we don't start putting limits on these meetings as it is occurring in districts across the country and the state. It is important that all sides of debate have a forum to express their views. It should not fear being silenced or ignored. I hope to continue the conversations with the board and move towards progress for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And our final speaker is Laura Call.
Our family has had kids in this district for 9 years. This is the only district that they have ever attended. We have had some highs and we have had some lows. For the most part, our experience here has been great. As many of you may know, there is a parents group that has been formed. There's been a lot said about this group. I want to clarify a little about the group. We are not against teachers. Quite the opposite. We are actually for teachers. I work in the district, as many of you know, and I see these teachers from various point of views in the different capacities that I sub in. Some of the teachers in this district give up their free time, unpaid hours to help kids that are struggling or just to have fun with them. One teacher had a game night with their class once a month, and this was after school. The impact it had on those kids was remarkable. That teacher showed that they cared and wanted to get to know those kids, while also providing additional adult support and interactions. Another made sure their students decorated their classroom. Why? Because it is their classroom. And that teacher wanted the students to be reflected in that room. They wanted their students to see themselves in there. Another took time to give a child a hug when all they wanted was their mom and to go home. Another teacher took time to help a child tie their shoe while encouraging them to work a little bit harder at their current PE activity. Another teacher took time to check on a student that was struggling with going to school. I've seen administrators reach out to kids that are sitting alone at lunch. There are high fives and fist bumps on a regular basis. There are teachers that get to know certain kids because they know they are struggling and will need that teacher at some point in their education. There are so many examples like these. If I were to list them all, we would never leave this room. The policies and the curriculum we adopt at the district matter. As parents, we demand a seat at the table when we select the curriculum and structure of our public schools. We feel we are not being listened to. And that most responses deflect rather than address the issue. That is why we are so passionate about these issues, not because we are anti-teacher. We appreciate what our teachers do. We recognize that being a teacher isn't as easy as people think. We are behind you, and together we can achieve excellence, but it needs to be done together. Thank you.
Okay, that is our final speaker. Right, so before I ask for approval on the agenda, I would like to move our final topic, which is the superintendent annual evaluation. I'd like to move that after the superintendent report. So if you guys are okay with that, I'll ask for an approval for the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Approval for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. All right, so on to committee reports. Policy committee?
We had a group of policies to review, and as usual, it's MSBA, matching MSBA, or there was a few minor adjustments per the administration on some wording.
Denny, Southwest Metro?
Southwest Metro met last Tuesday at a regular school board meeting. We had a report from all the different leaders of the programs, and the programs are coming along well. Numbers are looking good, and things are going quite well in the school. We also had a report on the sale of the Valley Green building, and our participation in it, and we approved a purchase agreement for that sale. We approved a couple of field trips and overnights coming up during the school year. And then we had an adjournment. And then one thing that we do at our board meeting is we talk about what's going on in our district, and kind of a report to each other and to let us know what's happening. And what was kind of interesting is that parent concern and parent involvement at board meetings really runs the gamut of participation and different things that have occurred, from the one that made the news in Chaska to ones in other districts where there have been no parents coming to the meeting whatsoever. And I was able to say, very proudly that we've had, parent participation and parents coming to our meeting, but things have been very civil and very, sincere and honest. So it was nice to be able to say that we do have it, but we have it in a very conscientious way.
And special ed, there was none?
The CPAC meeting will be held virtually in November.
Nothing in community ed?
No.
Nothing in wellness?
No.
Nothing in early childhood?
No.
And Matt's not here to do.
There's nothing.
Okay, there was none for fitness and aquatic. So that brings us to superintendent report.
Okay. Just want to give an update on transportation. We sent a letter out a couple weeks ago to families explaining shortage and our possible options. I'm pleased to report, with the help of people getting the word out, obviously the letter helped, and we had other avenues of communication. But we've hired 2 more drivers, and we're looking for a few more. We've got 3 of our buildings and grounds staff members that are getting their license also. So things are looking much better right now. We'll be sending a letter out this week explaining it to our families that right now our option of getting enough drivers is working. We'll still keep the names of people that on a list in case we ever need to possibly go to that. But I know our Craig Most, our operations director, feels much better about where we're at with the bus shortage. And sort of leads me into just people working together on that. You talk about team effort, just with our staff and families too. As we go through this, these challenging times right now, especially with employment, but we've got a great staff of clerical, like I said, transportation, paraprofessionals, people in nutrition, custodians, and the business office and everything have done a great job working together. We've got shortages in right now in nutrition services, and we've had secretaries, administrators, paraprofessionals stepping up and helping serve lunch. We've, going back to transportation, we've had people in our business office, teachers that are stepping up to driving bus and doing those things. So covering jobs has been a real big thing, and it's great to see everyone come together. I appreciate that so much. It was maybe our first meeting, we haven't talked about mass. I shouldn't probably bring it up, but with our recommendation on mass, I will say this, we haven't had one complaint. The teachers have been great through this whole start. We're already on our 9th week of school right now, believe that. And I just really appreciate the positive attitude of our teachers, our staff, for the great job they've done in putting kids first and working with our families. It's off to I think we're on our way to a good year. It's been a challenge, like I said, with trying to fill some of the needs that we've had, but just appreciate everyone's hard work and showing people they care. It's really been very positive, so thank you.
Tim, the issue of being short in food staff was brought up at the meeting on last Tuesday, and the superintendent from Prior Lake said that they put out a call for parent volunteers to help with the school lunch program, and they got like 200 in, just a few minutes. And have we ever considered doing that?
I haven't talked to Kim Herons, our Nutrition Services Director. Right now, we've filled within right now, but that is an option we're looking at too. So, but yes, I've even served lunch twice and at the high school.
You're an employee.
Right, I'm an employee, but I did a pretty good job on the hamburgers, so didn't screw it up too bad.
Good. Anything else?
No, that'll be it.
Well, good. So I'll give add some extra good news to that. So we completed Superintendent DeBurner's evaluation by the board administrative team and himself. And on a scale of 1 to 5, on average, we're at 4.5. And it was interesting as I was going through and laying it all out, and Superintendent DeBurner and I reviewed it, that even during, last year, which none of us expected, it's all new territory that we're going through, but it was positive because, and I'm going to use the word he just used, we all came together and we worked together. And yeah, there was some high points and there was some definite low points where we were like, working, trying to figure out kind of like the bus issue. But when you come together, you're able to make it work. And Superintendent DeBurner's evaluation shows that. And like I said, on average in the 10 areas, it was 4.5. So it was good. Any questions on that? All right. So we will move on to the action items, and I can't flip my page. So, let's talk about the audit. Approval of the 2021 audit report.
All right, so I don't know if you all know me, but I'm Natasha Axelson with Bergen KDV, and I'm just going to go over the audit results from
Natasha,
this last year.
could you
Yes.
put the microphone closer to your?
Is it this one? Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully that's better. Okay, so first wanted to touch on the independent auditor's report. Happy to report that you did again receive an unmodified opinion, or what we sometimes call a clean opinion. It is the best opinion that us as your auditors can give you. So that is saying that your financial statements present fairly all material respects of the activity of the district for the last fiscal year. There are a few other reports in the audit, if you notice when you're flipping through. They kind of touch on the different areas that we look at, some government auditing standards. We did look at some additional federal funding with the additional dollars that came in this last year, as well as some Minnesota legal compliance. We did not have any compliance findings that we became aware of. We did have one internal control finding, which is very similar to the last few years. It's just the lack of segregation of accounting duties, very common with districts, especially this size, throughout the state that I work with. So there are some mitigating controls in place, so kind of doing what you can with the people that you have. So now I'm going to kind of get more into the numbers side of things, and this slide here just kind of shows the Gen Ed formula allowance over the last few years, and then looking ahead to fiscal year 22, so the current fiscal year we're in now. This is the largest majority of the funding based on students, so just wanted to put this percentage out there. So looking at the district's ADM numbers, this is the last 5 years. Did see a decrease for the first time in the 5 years presented this last year. It was about a 4% decrease, and most of that was seen in the elementary category of students. And this is just showing that in a different format, but it's the same data. So then we convert those ADM numbers based on a weighting system that the state has put out. And this is what your funding is actually based off of. So when we convert those numbers, we get to your adjusted PUN is what we call it. Again, overall saw about a 4% decrease, and almost all of that was in the resident PUN. So your open enrollment gain stayed fairly consistent from previous years, so no major change there. And again, here is just showing that in a different format. I'm gonna start with the general fund and specifically the revenue. So you can see in fiscal year 21, you did have an increase of about 1.2 million. Both the property taxes and other revenues categories where you saw fairly significant increases. Property taxes increased with the levy increase, and then the other revenues is where the federal dollars get put. So the various COVID funding that was received contributed to that increase. You'll notice that there is a decrease in state revenues, and that was with the decreased enrollment numbers that general education aid decreased in conjunction with that. So here just shows your sources of revenue as far as a percentage of total. State revenues are the largest majority by far and have been in the past. So something to keep an eye on, especially with your enrollment numbers, which I know everyone was very aware of this last year. I think most districts saw the decrease in numbers that you did. So then we can look at the revenues per student, and we're able to look at it both for New Prague district specifically, and then we compare it to statewide averages, and then also of some districts of similar size in the state. In 2020, we don't have 21's data for the statewide and other districts, but have been significantly under the averages of these other two categories. And it appears that it'll be that in fiscal year 21 as well. You'll be under the statewide average and districts of similar size as far as the revenue that you receive per student. So general fund expenditures can be seen, the breakout of them can be seen here. So if we combine the instructional categories specifically, they make up about 66% of the total expenditures. So when you're looking at how much is being spent on the actual instruction of students versus various support and sites and buildings, things like that. And those percentages are fairly consistent with where they have been in the past, no major shifts there. So now we can look at the budget to actual for the general fund. Overall, general fund revenues were about 400,000 over budget, and most of that was in that federal sources of revenue, and that was with the ESSER 2 funds that you received weren't included in that final budget, so that's where that variance is coming from. And expenditures were just over $1 million under budget, and that was mostly due to some conservative budgeting for salaries and wages this last year. So similar to the revenue per student that we looked at, we can look at it on the expenditure side as well. Similar to the revenues, New Prague area schools has less expenditures per student when compared to the state average and districts of similar size. You will notice that your debt service and community service are higher than those state averages, but in total, still looking under. And a lot of the community service, why it's larger here is with the aquatic center, just a lot of expenditures coming in there. So this chart kind of pulls all of the general fund operations into one graph so you can see where everything landed. So with the revenue and expenditure changes that I just talked about, the general fund saw a decrease in fund balance of about 1.6 million, bringing it down to about 7.8 million in total. A lot of times we'll look at the unassigned fund balance a little bit more closely, as that's the funding that's available for future use, not set aside for anything else already. That was down to 6.3 million, which accounts for about 1.5 months of expenditures. So just another way to look at that going forward. And this graph here kind of shows the trend of the overall financial health over the last 5 years, as well as all school districts in the blue there. So in 2020, New Prague area schools was under the state average, and it appears that it'll be that in 2021, assuming the trends are the same. But still within your fund balance policy, you're within the limits there. So the food service fund did see a decrease in both revenue and expenditures, had fairly significantly less meals served with the decrease in students, and then also with the summer food service program in place. Resulted in basically a break-even year for the food service fund, and that fund balance is at just over $510,000. Then the last fund that I wanted to look at was the community service fund. And again, both revenues and expenditures did decrease in fiscal year 21. The expenditures were still over revenues, which resulted in a decrease in that fund balance. It is down to about $73,000 from $450,000 the year before. So it took a pretty big hit this last year, but I know based on some conversations I've had with the business office, it was a lot of effects from COVID on the aquatic center specifically. So it was something they were very aware of and had plans going forward. So no major concerns there on my end. So any questions on anything or any comments from anyone?
Good.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will take a motion to approve the 2021 audit report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0. We have some MOUs for transportation, and Sandy is gonna present that. Tim is gonna present that.
Hi, Sandra.
I'm gonna present. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Oh,
Okay. I covered some of this, a lot of this during the workshop session 2 weeks ago, just talking about the transportation challenges, but this MOU just gives final approval for us to implement the various incentives that we put in to try to attract and retain bus drivers. And the first that's actually not in the MOU, but you will be seeing some stipends coming through on the consent agenda, will be the $500 payment for getting the CDL license. If you're a current employee, we have a couple of employees that got them last year, and then we'll have several get them this year. You'll see those come through on the consent agenda probably in November. And then the other pieces are covered in this MOU. So every regular bus driver will receive an additional 75 cents an hour from October 16th to March 15th. And that extra 75 cents an hour about approximates the $500 incentive for getting the CDL. We also have put in a hiring bonus of either $1,000 or $1,500 for new regular route drivers. They will not receive the 75 cents incentive. They will go off the current salary scale, and those bonuses will be paid out in 3 installments over the course of the year. And we did hire 2 bus drivers under this. One will receive the $1,000, and one will receive the $1,500. I believe those were on the consent agenda tonight. Yeah, and we are, of course, going to start bargaining with the transportation unit in November. And so that is ongoing as well. But this will sunset on June 30th unless it is superseded by a new collective bargaining agreement. Any questions at all?
When did you say it was going to end?
The actual agreement will end on June 30th. The pay raise ends March 15th.
Okay. Got it. Any other questions? All right, motion to approve the MOU for transportation.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. So now we have an MOU for teachers.
Yes, so this is increasing the hourly rate for teachers that teach summer school and targeted services during the school year. These are extended day programs to teach and work with children who are behind grade level in their academics. And many districts actually increased them last summer because of the fact that we had such high need for teachers to work with these students. We got the funds a little bit too late to implement in June because we started summer school so early. But we wanted to do this starting July 1st, and then for our targeted services program this year, and then summer school next year. And we want to increase those rates. We currently have 4 steps. We want to get it down to 2 steps. And step 1 would be $35 an hour, and step 2 would be $37 an hour. And we will put this in the master agreement when we settle the teacher contract. So this would go back and be effective July 1st. Any questions at all on that?
Anyone? Nope. Okay. Motion to approve the MOU for teachers who teach targeted service in summer school.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Approval of the New Prague Area Education Foundation grants.
Yeah, Janelle Kirsch was here at our work session, went over that. Mainly it's upping the fees.
No.
Oh, you're an educator. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I skipped one.
That's all right.
Do the grant. I can talk about the grant real quick, too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a couple items here. The Education Foundation. We get teachers applying for grants. Rachel Johnson from Falcon Ridge, busy in Brainy Buckets for her kindergarten class of 413. So these are grants that are just extras that aren't in the normal supply budget. And then Megan Garner got requested or filled out a grant for interactive whiteboard. So increased engagement for all students. That was 169. So a total of 582.
So a motion to approve the first round of 21-22 grants from New Prague Area Education Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, approval of facility use guide, updated procedures and fees. This is the first one.
This, just basically, I mean, she went over this at the work session, but mostly a few wording things, but just upping the fees, usually $2 to $3 on most of them. They haven't been changed, I think, in 6 years. So, and then a few wording things on staff responsibilities, that type of thing, and just a $50 fob fee now. So,
Basically, it was done to get it more current and to get it.
yeah, she did a comparison of other districts, and just it was time.
I'll make a motion to approve the new facilities use.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. All right, we need to go into closed session. And so per Minnesota statute 13D.03 sub 1, the governing body of public employer may, by majority vote in a public meeting, decide to hold a closed meeting to consider strategy for labor negotiations, including negotiation strategies or developments or discussions and review of labor negotiation proposals, conduct pursuant to sections 179A.01 to 179A.25. Can I have a motion to move into closed session?
So
So
move.
moved. Second.
And we will, all those in favor?
Aye.
Has a 6-0. Time is 6:47, and we will gather